Okay, the last part of this section, we are going to look at what we call interval notation. So, interval notation is a notation for describing an interval on a number line. Okay, so we've got specific steps. So whenever we're reading a graph, we're going to read it just like we read English, which is left to right. Okay, so parentheses, we all know what parentheses look like, are used for when there's an open circle on the graph. So open circle meaning either greater than or less than. So, and we are going to use brackets. So, they kind of look like boxes. Okay, they're used for when we have a closed circle on the graph. Okay, which means that we have the inequality symbols of less than or equal to, greater than or equal to. So I like to think of the brackets as the ones that take a little bit more effort to write. Kind of like the inequality symbols, you have to take that extra step to write that equal sign on the bottom. Okay, so we use negative infinity when the interval continues on forever in the negative direction. Likewise, we're going to use positive infinity for when the interval continues forever in a positive direction. Okay, so parentheses are always used when our negative infinity or positive infinity are used. Okay, so if we have the inequality of x is greater than or equal to 2, our graph is going to look like a closed circle at 2, and it goes on forever in the positive direction. Since it's a closed circle at 2, we have a bracket. We have 2, comma, infinity, parentheses. We're always using parentheses when we have infinity. Okay, if we have x is less than 2, that means we have an open circle at 2 and it's going forever in the negative direction. So you have parentheses, negative infinity, comma, 2, and then we're going to have another parentheses because this is an open circle. Okay, so for these first two, we have, the first thing we come across is this -1. So we have -1. There's a closed circle at -1, which means we are going to have a bracket around -1. Okay, comma, it's going on forever in the positive direction, which means we're going to use infinity. And whenever we use infinity, we are going to use parentheses. Okay, so here, when we're reading it right now, we can see that it's already going forever in the negative direction. So we're going to have parentheses, negative infinity. It's going to stop when it gets to 4. So we're going to write 4, and it's an open circle at 4, which means we're going to have that parentheses around it. Okay, let's go ahead and try the got it problem. So the first thing we see is that negative infinity, so we have parentheses, negative infinity, comma, stops at -3, and it's an open circle, which means we have another parenthesis. And for this one, we're reading it left to right. We come to 0 first. It's a closed circle, so we've got a bracket around it. Comma, it's going on forever in that positive direction, so we've got infinity. And every time we use infinity, we will have a parentheses. And that is it.